Let me start off by asking this question, all right? Is sales easy or difficult? All right? Is being in sales easy or difficult? Because I've asked this question to many people before, and I've got both answers. I've had people who tell me that sales is easy, and then at the same time, I've had people who tell me that sales is difficult. So what do you think sales is? Is sales easy for you, or is sales difficult for you? All right? In my opinion, I think sales is both. Sales is both easy and sales is difficult. Sales is easy because if we strip away all the noise around how difficult sales is, sales only boils down to 4 simple steps. No matter the industry that you're in, no matter the product or the service that you're selling, sales only comes down to 4 simple steps and 4 steps alone. The first step is you must have something to sell, right? Be it a product or a service. Because if you don't have something to sell, you can't even begin the sales process, right? So sales starts with first having a product or a service to sell. Step 2 is to keep a lookout for the people who may need what you're selling. Step 3, you got to tell them about what you're selling. And step 4, you got to ask them if they want to buy what you're selling. And that's all it is, right? Sales is just 4 steps. 1, have something to sell. 2, keep a lookout for the people who may need it. 3, tell them about what you're selling. And 4, ask them if they want to buy what you're selling. At the end of these 4 steps, only one of 2 things can happen. Either the prospect says yes, or the prospect says no. Sure, there may be a third option, and the third option is the prospect says maybe. But we all know a maybe will eventually lead to either a yes or a no, right? So whether the prospect says yes or no, what is your next step? Your next step is to go back to step 1 and repeat the 4 steps over again. How many times do you repeat this process? You repeat this process until the day you choose to no longer want to repeat the process. It could be because you felt that, hey, you know what? You have achieved all your sales goals, your sales targets, and it's time for you to retire, so you stop doing sales. Or, more often than not, people leave the sales industry because they feel that sales is difficult. So end of the day, the 4-step sales process happens over and over and over and over and over again until the day that you decide you no longer want to do it. So if sales is easy, sales is only made out of these 4 steps, what makes sales difficult? And that is emotions, all right? We are all emotional beings. Human beings are emotional beings. Emotions affect our thoughts, emotions affect our language, emotions affect our actions, and emotions affect our behaviors. And in return, emotions affect our results and our outcomes. Every no that we get in rejection, every no that we get in sales is a form of rejection. Every time a prospect says no, that's a form of rejection. And when we go back to step 1, after a no, what we are carrying with us is all the emotions that is triggered because of that rejection. Rejections is both an act and an emotion. Right? Rejection is both an act and an emotion. Right? The act of rejection happens when the prospect says no. So say, for example, you put forth your product and your service, and then the prospect says no. The prospect is exercising their right to say no. Right? We all have exercised that right ourselves. Say, for example, you go to a Starbucks and you buy a cup of coffee. And once you buy that cup of coffee, you order that cup of coffee, the barista at the back of the counter says, hey, you know what? Would you like to buy a breakfast meal together with your coffee? So the barista is trying to upsell you something and you say no. That is you exercising your right to say no to an idea or a proposal that's been put forth to you. So that is well within your rights to say no. So when a prospect says no to you, they are exercising their right to say no. So that is the act of rejection. But the act of rejection from the external will trigger the emotion of rejection from within. When we receive a no from the external, we feel rejected on the inside. And that feeling is an emotion. All emotions require triggers. Right? Emotions don't just appear out of nowhere. Emotions require triggers. Happiness, sadness, excitement, joy, doubt, insecurity, uncertainty. All these are different emotions, and all of these emotions require triggers. So whenever we get a no from the external, internally it triggers the emotion of rejection, and rejection can trigger even more emotions, right? Emotions such as sadness, doubt, lack of confidence, lack of drive, lack of motivation. All this can happen because we feel that we do not see the fruits of our labor in that time when we are getting a no. So when we are repeating the 4-step sales cycle again, the emotion that we carry with us to step 1 is going to make a big difference in how well we repeat the process again. When we go back to step 1 from a yes, we are carrying a lot of positive emotions from closing a sale, yes? Right? We are feeling good, we are feeling confident, we are feeling happy, and in return, the next cycle of the 4 steps is going to generate a more confident and positive outcome. But if we are going back to step 1 after a no, what we are often carrying is doubt. We start questioning our abilities, our capabilities, and we are not too sure, if the next customer is going to say yes or no. So now we go back to step 1 and we repeat the 4 steps again. Now we get our second no. And then we repeat the 4 steps again, and we get our third no. And then we get our 4th no, and we get our 5th no. By the time we get our 5th and 6th no, what are we feeling? We are feeling an overwhelming sense of rejection taking over. Even before we repeat the cycle, we are already looking at negative outcomes. And that is the danger of not knowing how to manage our emotions, and more importantly, not knowing how to release the negative emotions before starting our sales cycle again. So today, I'm not here to teach you how to do sales, because the reality is I think you can probably teach me a thing or two about how to do sales better, because there is a lot of sales skills that you guys learn, and there's a lot of stuff that is involved in selling. I'm sure you've heard of the 7-step sales cycle, right? Starting from prospecting, and then qualifying, needs analysis, presenting, objection handling, closing the sale, and asking for referrals. So these are all sales skills, and all these different aspects can be sharpened so that you are better at it. The problem is, a lot of times we spend a lot of time sharpening our sales skills, how to be better at sales, but we completely neglect how to manage our emotions in the face of rejections. And if we can learn how to do that, how to manage our emotions, how to pick ourselves up faster, guess what? You can now push through the tough times so that you can persevere and achieve your goals. All right? There is a metric in sales called your closing rate. Right? Closing rate simply means the number of people you present to, right, against the number of people that says yes. Let's just say, if you're new, right, your closing rate is about 20 to 1. That means when you present to 20 people, right, 1 out of that 20 says yes to whatever it is that you're selling, right? For some people, it could be 30 to 1. For some, could be 40 to 1. And a lot of times, the longer you are in sales, the sharper your skills get, your sales closing ratio can be better. The more experienced ones could be as low as 5 to 1. In all my years of doing sales, talking to people in sales, and doing research for all the books that I'm writing, I have yet to come across somebody with a 1-to-1 closing rate. I'm not going to say it's impossible, because the reality is I've not met all 7 billion people on this planet. So I don't know if there is somebody out in this world who has a 1-to-1 closing ratio. That means every person they present to the customer, the prospect says yes. So rejections is part and parcel of sales, right? Even the best salesperson in this world will face rejections, okay? So there is two ways that you can approach sales. One is it's sharpening your skill sets so that you have a better closing rate. Meaning, if your current closing rate, let's just say, is 20-1, and you want to achieve 5-1, so now you have to sharpen your skill set. Meaning, you've got to learn how to prospect better, you've got to learn how to qualify better, you've got to learn how to present better, you've got to learn how to tell better stories, objection handling, how to turn a no to a yes, and how to close better. And if you can learn and sharpen all of this skill, you can improve your closing rate. And some people do that. They want to improve their closing rate. The second approach to sales is the volume-based selling. Volume-based selling simply means you are in acceptance of your closing rate, no matter what it is, and you work within your closing rate. Meaning, if your closing rate is 20-1 and you want to close 10 sales, that means you must present to 200 people. Okay? Volume-based selling works provided you have the mental fortitude and you have the grit and the perseverance and the resilience to keep going forward and presenting to more people even though you are achieving a lot of rejections. A lot of times people want a better closing rate simply because they don't want to face that much of rejections. Because the reality is this, right? Rejections are not fun, all right? Not just rejections in sales, rejections in life is never fun, right? And we try to avoid that. Two of the biggest fears that limit human potential is the fear of rejection and the fear of failure. And a lot of times, rejection is perceived as failure, okay? So because of that, people want to work to improve their closing ratio, which is good, but at the same time, if someone who just works on volume-based selling, but have the grit, resilience, and perseverance to just go through all the no's, they too will be very successful in sales. In one of my early jobs in sales, I still remember this, right? I used to be a flight attendant before, right? All of my 20s, I was a flight attendant with Singapore Airlines, and I left Singapore Airlines at the age of 30. When I left Singapore Airlines, I was also doing part-time real estate. And I was doing that for about a year and a half. And then when I left Singapore Airlines, I had an opportunity to join a sales and marketing company where we used to do roadshows and events, right? So we were outsourced sales and marketing. So when I joined that company, right, they used to have a lot of annual conferences, right? So in my year that I was there, I attended this annual conference. And I still remember the regional director of the organization was speaking at that event. The first time I met him, I always thought to myself, what's special about this guy? Because I couldn't put a finger to what his X factor was, right? He wasn't very charismatic, all right? He didn't look like the best presenter. He didn't look like he was really good at doing sales. You know, and he even just looked very normal. So I always wondered, like, what's special about this guy? So at that conference, when we were there, when he took stage and he was sharing his story, he said exactly what I was thinking. He took stage and he said, hey, you know what? There is nothing special about him. He said there were many people who joined before him and his peers who were way more talented than him, that were way better than him, that could have been way more successful than him. The only reason why he is standing there in the position that he is because he outlasted everyone else. For him, he knew that what he needed was grit, perseverance, and just to move forward, where else the rest could not handle the sheer amount of rejections that they were getting, and a lot of people just left, right? So that to me was my first introduction into this idea that if we can manage our emotions, we can be very successful in sales, right? So two ways of approaching sales. One is where you enhance your sales skills so that your closing rate becomes better. Or the second option is you work with volume-based selling. But imagine this, if you can do both. If you can work on your sales skills, which I think a lot of you do, right? You attend a lot of courses, you read a lot of books, YouTube videos, you listen to podcasts to improve your sales skills. But at the same time, you learn how to pick yourself up from rejections. In other words, don't get too affected with rejections, by understanding that rejections is part and parcel of sales. If you can do both, you can not only go far in sales, you can go further than you thought possible, right? In sales, okay, the more people you present to, the higher your probabilities of closing a sale, all right? The more people you present to, the higher the probability of closing a sale. But at the same time, the more people you present to, the more rejections you're going to get. And that is the sales paradox. A paradox is a situation or a proposition where two statements that should not exist together exist together. And in sales, that is the paradox. The more people you present to, the higher your probabilities of closing a sale. But at the same time, the more people you present to, the more rejections you're going to get. End of the day, a prospect saying no to you is never in your hands. Whether they say yes or a no, it's never 100% in your hands. Yes, you can influence the outcome, but it is never 100% guaranteed. But what is in your hands is the activity that you do, right? That is always in your hand, right? What stops you from doing a lot of activity a lot of time is the rejections that get in the way. Because after a while, like I said, 1 rejection, 2 rejection, 3, 4, 5, when this accumulates, the emotions not only compound, they intensify. And when you lose, when rejections accumulate to a point where you no longer can take it, it is not the skills to sell that disappear, but it is the will to sell. All right? When you lose your motivation, right, all the skills in the world that you have, it's not going to help you because you're not even going to utilize these skills. All right? And that is why when we talk about emotions, all right, motivation is an emotion as well. And we've got to learn not just how to motivate ourselves, but we've got to learn how to release the negative emotions within us. Okay? I shared with you earlier that all emotions require triggers, right? Meaning, if you are feeling demotivated, how do you motivate yourself? It's by knowing what your triggers for motivation are, right? So this is where you've got to put in the work. You've really got to ask yourself, and you have to look and examine yourself and find out what your triggers are. What are your triggers for happiness? What are your triggers for drive? What are your triggers for motivation? Right? Because when you know these triggers, then in those times when you are feeling down, you can now utilize these triggers. For me personally, right, music does wonders. Whenever I'm feeling down, whenever I'm feeling like life has hit me hard, and life has hit me hard many times over, all right, over and over and over again. Many times in my life, I felt that, you know what, life has kicked me down so hard. Why does this keep happening to me? And I'm sure a lot of you here would have experienced something like this as well. Because like I said, rejections in sales is just one portion of rejections in life. All right? We all face rejections more often than we think we deserve it. All right? But in those times when we are feeling down, what can we do to pick ourselves up to keep moving forward? Because within us, there are two modes of thinking. There are two modes of operation. All right? Either we are operating at cause or we are operating at effect. All right? Operating at effect means we are now adopting a mentality of a victim. All right? We are asking questions like, why me? Why is this happening to me? No choice, not my fault. This is out of my control. When we are opting as a victim, what happens is this. We are no longer taking responsibility to how our life is going to be, and we're just accepting life for what it is. right? The other mode of thinking is when we operate at cost. Operating at cost does not mean that we feel that we are the cause of what has happened, but we want to be the cause of what happens next, right? Operating at cost means you are now operating from a solution finder's mentality, right? So anytime when we are feeling down, when we feel that life has hit us hard, right? If we know how to pick ourselves up, that means we know how to operate from a solutions finder's mentality, and that takes us away from the victim's mentality, a victim mindset. If we want to be successful in sales, if you want to hit all your targets this year and achieve all the goals that you have set for yourself, believe me, right? Believe me, if you can persevere through the tough times, and tough times will hit you, all right? Tough times will hit you. Those who have had a measure of success in sales will tell you this as well. Right? The road is never smooth, no, neither is it always rosy. But if you can persevere through the tough times with the understanding and the belief that no matter how dark the night gets or how hard the storm hits, right, the sun will rise and the sky will clear up, you too will be very successful. Okay? So, coming back, the question now becomes, okay, so what can we do, right, when we are feeling down? What can we do when we are feeling this rejection coming in, right? Because remember the 4 steps, 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 1, you got to have something to sell. 2, you got to keep a lookout for the people who may need what you're selling. 3, tell them about what you're selling. 4, ask them if they want to buy what you're selling. At the end of these 4 steps, you then go back to step 1. The emotions that you carry with you to step 1, right, is critical, is crucial. So if you are going back from a no, the key now is this. How do you release these negative emotions and approach step 1 with positive emotions? Because this is in your control. The no is not in your control. It's never 100% in your control, but how you approach step 1 is well within your control. So what can you do, right, to release those negative emotions? 3 things, right? 3 things you can do, and these are the 3 things that I would highly encourage and suggest that you try doing. First, you have to embrace the sales rejection paradox. You have to embrace the sales rejection paradox, meaning every time you get a no, right, you have to take a moment to just sit down and remind yourself that, hey, rejections is part and parcel of sales, right? The more people you present to, the higher your probabilities of closing the sale. At the same time, the more people you present to, okay, the higher the number of rejections you're going to get. And you have to sit down and embrace this, that rejections is part and parcel of sales. So if this prospect is going to say no, it's okay. It's time to go back to step 1 and look for the people who need what you're selling. The thing about sales is this, right? You can never sell to everyone that you meet because not everyone that you sell to needs what you're selling. But most times, in order to reach the people who need what you're selling, you have to go through the people who don't need what you're selling. You know? So you got to embrace the sales rejection paradox. That's 1. Next, you have to understand that failure is a perception. Remember when I shared with you just now that 2 of the limits to human potential is the fear of failure and the fear of rejection. And a lot of times, rejection is looked as failure. Rejection is perceived as failure, right? But failure is a perception. To understand this, we must first take a look at the definition of the word success, all right? If you were to do a simple Google search, all right, if you were to do a simple Google search, what you'll find is this. One of the definitions for the word of success is the accomplishment of a goal or purpose. Success simply means the accomplishment of a goal or purpose. Meaning, if you set yourself out to achieve something, The moment you achieve it, that means success. Okay? Now, if you were to look at the definition of the word failure, failure simply means a lack of success. That's all it is. If you were to do a Google search definition of failure, failure will simply be defined as a lack of success. A lack of success means you set out to achieve something, you attempted to achieve something, and you did not achieve it. It was an unsuccessful attempt. So in other words, failure simply means an unsuccessful attempt. To me, all right, unsuccessful attempts simply means you are now presented with an opportunity to try again with a better strategy to enhance your probability of success. Okay, so let me repeat that. An unsuccessful attempt simply means you are now presented with an opportunity to try again with a better strategy to enhance your probability of success. With a simple reframe like this, you will realize that life will never present you with absolute failures. Life only presents you with multiple opportunities to succeed. Think about the time when we were all children learning how to walk. We've all been that child before learning how to walk. Can you imagine this? When we were that child, trying to learn how to walk, after a few falls, we decided that walking is not for us. Would we be walking now? The answer is no. But why is it that at that young age, we never gave up? Why is it that at that young age, when we were learning how to walk, we never gave up, no matter how many times we fell? And the reason is, when we were young, we have not conditioned ourselves to believe that failure is permanent. As adults, we have somehow managed to convince ourselves that failure can be permanent. But as a child, we have not conditioned ourselves to believe that failure is permanent. When we were a child, failures were simply unsuccessful attempts, because that's how we were wired. That's our natural tendency, that failures are just unsuccessful attempts. Unsuccessful attempts simply means try again with a better strategy to enhance our probability of success. If we apply this simple reframe now as adults, we will never fail in life. But we will get multiple opportunities to succeed, and we keep trying again and again and again and again until we succeed. The only person that can truly allow you to fail permanently is you. Because you may get noise from the external telling you that, hey, you know what? You're not good enough. You can't do this. This is not for you, right? This noise will come from the external. But only one person can truly decide that you can't do this, you're not good enough, you've got to stop. And that's you. So with a simple reframe that there are no such thing as permanent failures, just multiple opportunities to succeed, you can continue again and again and again until you succeed. All right? So always remember this. Failure is a perception. Success is a choice. Success does not necessarily mean owning a big house, making a lot of money, buying a nice car. Success is whatever you want it to be. If your goal is to buy a big house, if your goal is to buy a big car, a nice car, your goal is to make a lot of money, sure, when you accomplish that, that's success to you. But success can also be broken down into smaller goals, right? For example, if your activity, you want to meet 100 people today, and when you achieve that goal, that is success. If you want to close, let's just say, X number of cases this week, you achieve that, that's success. Success is whatever you want it to be, and you have to celebrate your successes. See, here's the other key thing about successes. A lot of times, right, we start looking at only the big things that we want to achieve, but we forget about the little successes that happen along the way because we are so focused on the big goal that we forget to celebrate the small wins. All right? If you do not know how to appreciate the small wins, you will never know how to appreciate the big win. And that's a fact, because we are creatures of habit. Human beings, we are creatures of habit. Everything that we do is habitual, and that includes the way that we think. All right? So we have to celebrate our small wins so that we learn how to appreciate all that is good that is happening to us, so that that keeps us going towards achieving the big goal. Okay? So first, you got to embrace the sales rejection paradox. Next, you have to reframe your mindset to believe that failure is a perception and success is a choice. Third, okay, you got to give your negative emotions an outlet. You've got to give your negative emotions an outlet. While you can trigger positive emotions, maybe in the form of music, maybe in the form of certain activities that you do, right? At the same time, you've got to give your negative emotions an outlet. What I mean by this is, remember when I told you that every time you get a no, right, that's a form of rejection, that triggers negative emotions within you. The more no's you get, the more it'll compound and it'll intensify, right? So think about it this way. If you have an iPhone, right, and you go out taking a lot of photos, right, you don't have iCloud, neither do you transfer your photos out and back them up somewhere. Eventually, your phone will run out of storage, and when your phone runs out of storage, you can no longer take any more photos, right? But the moment you transfer these photos out, you free up the space within your iPhone so that you can go out and continue taking more photos. So our mind is like that too, right? Every now and again, we have to transfer what's in here out, right? And negative emotions that is not given an outlet will linger within you, right? It will stay within you, it will linger within you, and it'll accumulate within you, and eventually you will implode, right? And when you implode, you will explode, and you will find that, hey, you know what, this industry is not for you, you can no longer do this, and you will quit, right? So give your emotions an outlet. Give it an outlet. So there are many different ways where you can create an outlet for yourself. Highly successful people, often you might hear this, they have a lot of coaches. They have a lot of counselors. Some go for therapy. And that's because these counselors, these coaches, these therapists are their outlet. They go and they talk about what's bugging them. Okay? You can also be your own coach. Right? You can now exercise, you can utilize self-coaching strategies to be your own coach. One of the most effective, right, self-coaching technique is journaling. Right? Journaling simply means, right? How many of you here journal? You all don't? Perfect. Start journaling. All right? Start journaling. Journaling simply means taking what's in here, your thoughts, what's bugging you, those emotions, and putting it on a piece of paper so that you transfer what's here to there and you free yourself up. Journaling doesn't need to be in perfect English or in any other language that's perfect. Journaling is however you want to write it. You know? So what happens is this. When you transfer what's in here to here, right, in essence, when you close the book, what's out of sight is out of mind. You have given what's bugging you a place for it to stay alive elsewhere that's not within you. Okay? So, my advice really is this. Get a little book, right? Call it your personal journal. Every time you face a rejection, every time that you do a presentation, you try to close a sale, it doesn't happen, you get a no, right? Immediately after that, take your journal out and you write down what happened, all right? You can write down things like, hey, you know what, today I met this client to present a product that I really felt would help them. All right? The client says no, all right? Because as a result of that, I am feeling sad, I am feeling disappointed, I am feeling doubtful, right? But I've reminded myself that rejections is part and parcel of sales, and failure is a perception, success is a choice. And that's all you're doing. Write the date, write the time, sign, close the book, go on for your next appointment. Okay? Self-coaching is something that is so powerful, right? But a lot of us don't know how to utilize it. When you can create little habits like this for yourself, right? You now put yourself in a way better position, right, to achieve the success that you want, right, at your next appointment, your next meeting, because you are no longer carrying those negative emotions with you for the next appointment, right? So journaling, one, you can do what I just told you just now, write whatever that comes to mind, okay? Next, you can also utilize these 4 questions that I'm going to give you as a guide, okay? You can utilize these next 4 questions as a guide for your journaling process. So whenever you're faced with a rejection, right? And by the way, this doesn't necessarily have to mean sales rejections, okay? This can be any form of rejection in life or any form or any kind of emotions that is causing you to feel down. Whenever you're feeling down, you can utilize these next 4 questions to pick yourself up, right? And the sequence of the questions is as follows, right? When you are feeling down, the first question you ask yourself is this: what am I feeling? Right? What am I feeling? And you write down whatever emotion that comes to mind. Whatever it is, don't overthink it, don't analyze it, right? Just write down whatever that comes to mind. Okay? So the first question, what am I feeling? The next question, what led me to feel this way? Right? And the questions has got to be asked in the exact way that I'm telling you. What led me to feel this way? Once again, write whatever that comes to mind. Don't overthink it, don't overanalyze it. Just write down whatever that comes to mind. Okay? The third question is one of the most important questions you can ask yourself. And the third question is, how much longer do I want to continue feeling this way? How much longer do you want to continue feeling this way? All right? Whatever answer comes to mind, you write it down. If you want to continue feeling this way for an entire month, so be it, because it's your choice. If you want to feel how you're feeling for a year, so be it. That's your choice. But more often than not, you will realize that you don't want to hold on to these negative emotions for long. Because why would you want to continue feeling sad? Why would you want to continue feeling, like you're not worth, right? So the third question is, how much longer do you want to continue feeling this way? And the last question, question number 4 is, what must I do next to feel better? Trust me, the moment you do this self-coaching exercise from question 1 to question 4, by the time you reach question 4, you will already start feeling better, right? Because self-development, right, starts with a measure of self-awareness. When we talk about having a growth mindset, okay, it starts with self-awareness. A lot of times when we are feeling down, we are not even aware of what's causing us to feel down and what we must do to pick ourselves up. Do we have all the answers to pick ourselves up during the times when we are feeling down? The answer is yes. Everything that I'm sharing with you today, you have already unconsciously applied it in your life many times over. But the difference is, in the past, you applied it unconsciously. Moving forward, you're going to apply it consciously, right? That's the power of knowledge, right? People have often said that knowledge is power, okay? I feel that, knowledge is partial power, right? True power lies in the application of the knowledge. So even today, with all the things that I've shared with you, right? what will truly make a difference is when you start applying what you have acquired, because that's where true power lies. Knowledge alone is partial power. Okay, so just to recap, what is the 3 things that you can do when you're faced with rejections? 1, you got to embrace the sales rejection paradox. And the sales rejection paradox simply means the more people you present to, the higher your probabilities of closing the sale. But at the same time, the more people you present to, the more rejections you're going to get. Rejections is part and parcel of sales, and sales is a numbers game. Sales is a game of numbers, right? Next, you've got to reframe what failure means to you, right? Failure is a perception. Failure simply means unsuccessful attempts. Unsuccessful attempts simply means you are now presented with an opportunity to try again with a better strategy to enhance your probability of success. And third, you've got to give your negative emotions an outlet. Whenever you're feeling rejected, whenever you're feeling down, you have got to give these negative emotions an outlet. All right? There are many ways you can do it, but my suggestion is start journaling. I feel that journaling is one of the things that can really make a difference in your life immediately, but you've got to get into the habit of writing it down. Give your emotions, your negative emotions, an outlet. You can either journal by just writing whatever that's in your mind, or you can utilize the 4 questions that I gave you just now. 1, what am I feeling? 2, what led me to feel this way? 3, how much longer do I want to feel this way? And 4, what must I do next to feel better? Write these 4 questions down, write the answers to these 4 questions. Believe me, you will start feeling better immediately. Okay? I want to leave you with this final thought, all right? And that is, the level of success that you can achieve in sales is really, really, really well within your hands. A lot of times, okay, people who are very talented in sales, right, give up way sooner than they should. All right? They give up way sooner than they should, and it really boils down to the hardship that they face because of all the rejections that you receive. All right? Good salespeople leave because they cannot handle the emotional turmoil. All right? Does that make you weak? No. That makes you human. Life will present us with rejections over and over and over again. But in those times, if we know what to do to pick ourselves up, we can now put ourselves in a position to keep moving forward. And in sales, that's all you need to do. You've got to keep moving forward, one step at a time. Utilize all the sales skills that you have and all the sales skills that you are learning. But at the same time, learn to strengthen your mind. Okay, learn to strengthen your mind. A lot of times when you attend, sales kickoff events, you get speakers coming on stage telling you, hey, you know what, you can do it, you can do it, you are out there, you can do it, you have what it takes, you can do it. But when was the last time you also told yourself that? What are the habits that you're creating for yourself on a daily basis? What are the habits that you create to prime yourself towards achieving the success that you want? Because everything begins with your emotions and everything ends with your emotions as well. All right? Emotions affect our thoughts, our language, our actions, and our behaviors. And in return, it produces our results and our outcomes. While the external can affect how we feel, right? We also have the power to influence how we feel from within, right? Start utilizing that, right? With that, I'd like to wish you all the success that you can achieve this year. And thank you so much for having me today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.